Welcome back. The Wisconsin Elections Commission will vote Thursday to approve a blistering new report targeting the former Madison City Clerk after nearly 200 absentee ballots went uncounted in November.
The report found Maribeth Witzel-Bell, the city's top election official who has since resigned, refused to acknowledge significant errors and took no action, even when on vacation, after learning 193 absentee ballots went uncounted. Commissioners Ann Jacobs, a Democrat, and Don Millis, a Republican, led the 6-month-long investigation, which included thousands of pages of documents and more than a dozen depositions with city and county staff.
Ann Jacobs is chair of the Wisconsin Elections Commission. She joins us now. Ann, welcome back to Up Front.
Thank you for having me.
So there's a lot to walk through in this report. Let's start with, from what you found, how would you characterize or sum up the actions of the Madison City Clerk in maybe a word or a sentence?
I think the word that we used in our report was astonishing. The Madison City Clerk was informed in November that there may be ballots that had gone uncounted. She didn't investigate and testified in deposition that she never even asked about it again until sometime in mid-December. It was absolutely shocking.
So you say astonishing. What should she have done?
Oh, it's so easy that it's almost absurd. First of all, she should have opened the bag to see if there were ballots inside. The minute she saw there were ballots inside, she needed to notify the county clerk because the county clerk was doing the county canvass, and she needed to notify her municipal board of canvass, and they needed to take steps to count those ballots and ensure they were included. Then, after making sure that first set of ballots was included, she needed to take steps to make sure that the same mistake hadn't occurred elsewhere, which we now know did, and to really account for all of those absentee ballots. And none of that happened.
And another one of your findings that you found is a building that the city uses to store carts and absentee ballots and supplies, an old brewery actually, was found numerous times to be unlocked. And on one occasion, you said an unauthorized person was found sleeping inside and could have had access to where those carts and ballots were stored. How concerning is this?
So there's different ways to protect elections, right? And there's different ways to protect ballots. And one of the ways we do that is through physical protection, locked doors, and things like that. So we did obtain that information through deposition, that we learned that there had been concerns about security at that building. And it was very surprising to hear that, and obviously very concerning.
And what does this do broadly to people's faith in elections when there's been so much talk about that in recent years?
My hope is that by the commission, we acted immediately when we heard that this had happened. And this investigation was instigated by the commission itself. We voted as a body to get to the bottom of what happened, because we can't fix things if we don't know what went wrong. And so part of what I hope people take away from this is the seriousness with which we take the accuracy, legitimacy, security of our elections.
And do you think that the clerk broke the law?
We made findings of probable cause, or we determined, Commissioner Millis and I, that we believe there was probable cause to believe that she had violated multiple statutes. That is in our report. Now, that's not determinative. Only the commission can make the decision whether or not that is in fact the case. But we certainly found enough facts to believe that there was probable cause to think that she had.
Would you like to see either the district attorney or the AG pursue any criminal charges in this case?
I'm not a big fan of that, but obviously it's up to their discretion to do that. I'm hesitant to start criminalizing the work of our clerks. A lot of things went wrong here, but I'm not sure that criminal charges is the way to prevent this in the future. I really do think that it's a learning experience for our clerks across the state.
Do you have faith in the city of Madison and its abilities to run elections as we sit here today?
I do, and that's because the former WEC administrator, Mike Haas, who is both the city attorney and the temporary clerk, has taken over election administration. And I know that he already, once this happened, immediately began some steps to prevent this from happening in the future. And I'm confident he will take that as seriously as it needs to be taken and move the city forward.
Ann Jacobs, the chair of the Wisconsin Elections Commission. Ann, like always, thank you.
Thank you.
Up next, House members back home after President Donald Trump signs his massive spending and tax plan. Now the ripple effects, the impact, the attention on the midterms. Republican Congressman Brian Stiles is with us next.